So I'm Brittany Shannon. I've met all of you guys so far. This is Sydney, and this is Dr. Turner. He's our first presenter in this class. So this is the Wednesday night group, and we're going to do 4 weeks of education on pregnancy. If you look inside the trifold, can you hand me some of those? There is a schedule, so you can see what to expect. So the middle column is the Wednesday schedule, and so you'll see there's 4 weeks of pregnancy, and then we're doing 5 weeks of newborn care, and then 4 weeks of postpartum care. Then we'll take a little break for Christmas. We take the month of January off because that's the month where we train new staff here at Pregnancy Care Center, and then we'll start it again, and this class will cycle 3 times in a year. So if you know anybody you think would like to join the class, they can join it at any time. We do ask that people commit to a session at a time. So you guys are committed to that 4 weeks of pregnancy. We ask that you try to show up. We are videotaping. So if you'd like to make up, like if you can't come and you'd like to make up a class, you certainly can make an appointment to do that. Definitely suggested too. So then it will take, on the last week, we'll take sign-ups for the next session, which will be newborn care. There's also some bonus things, as you'll see in the schedule, that we have game nights here on the side, and we have bonus classes. So everyone in Pathways is welcome to join those, and it's fun just to be around other people who are in that same stage of life with you and get to know other people, and you can bring all the kiddos and support people that you'd like to. So that's a fun thing. We do all that here. If you can follow along down here, kind of hit each point that I haven't met already. The confidentiality of each person in the group is essential to make our environment a place where everybody can share freely if they choose to. When people go through many, many weeks of getting to know each other in the same area, you want to be able to ask questions and feel like other people are going to be kind and respectful. And so the other part of that is that we, we're an accredited medical clinic here at Pregnancy Care Center, and so we abide by HIPAA regulations. Those are posted in the reception area on both sides, and I can print for you if you'd like to take home a copy. So one of the things to note is that prohibits us from being real free out in public. So if I see you out in public, I'm not going to acknowledge you unless you acknowledge me. And at whatever level you acknowledge me, I will do the same back. So that's the way HIPAA works. And so we ask that you respect each other's privacy in that same way. There may be people here in the class that haven't shared yet that they're pregnant with people. So you would be ruining their surprise if you did. It's just an extra thing. Let's see. So Pregnancy Care Center, we are recording most of the presentations, and it's for uses for quality control, so our medical directors can view them. And it's also for you guys if you miss a class and would like to make it up. So it's not our intention at all to record anyone other than the presenters, but you may get in there. So that's what that acknowledgement is about. We already talked about committing to a session. So each time that you come in for a session, you'll get the same spiel and an initial again. Pregnancy Care Center is sponsored by the community. So these classes are free. All of our presenters are volunteer. They are expensive volunteers, so our medical directors have valued the class at $750 a person, and so we're very, very thankful to our donors and our volunteers. So donations are welcome, though, just so you know. At any time you can do that. Actually, people donate a lot of things to support our organization. They can even donate things like cars or computers or whatever online, and it's turned into funds to support our organization. So if you'd like to know more about that, you can find out more on our website. Each of the presentation times will end with a question and answer section. So we ask that you jot down your questions, and if they're not already addressed during the presentation, there will be plenty of time at the end to answer all the questions you want. Let's see. Some materials will be graphic, and also we will just want people to be able to ask the questions that maybe they don't want to ask their own doctor. So we want you to feel free to do that. If it makes you uncomfortable, feel free to step out at any time. Let's see. So participants, we already talked about bonus classes and game nights. But there's also the Baby Boutique. Have you guys all seen it before? Okay, so we should all, if you haven't seen it, will you follow Sydney to the Baby Boutique and just take a quick look and come back? You already did?
No, I thought it was a different Baby.
Oh, yeah, go right ahead and check it out.
I'm just going to be right back. You guys stay here.
Super fast. You guys can look if you want. It's okay. You want to go see? Baby stuff. You're so cute. Oh my gosh. Like, what are we looking at? Other people are. I know, huh? But. Especially when you're pregnant too. You know.
And I don't know. I mean, I think it varies a little bit, but the one website I've been using for air quality had us pegged at 377.
What?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen that high yet.
Yeah, we were 377, measured was 326, and that was about 230%.
Oh my gosh.
Which puts us, deep into the hazardous range.
Oh my gosh, I did not realize that.
Like I said, that's the one side.
We should have face masks here. Most offices are having them, So, the Baby Boutique is a bonus to everyone in Pathways. So you get to shop in the boutique every week that you participate in Pathways. So if you are just coming to the Wednesday class and you don't want to make another trip in, then come a little early or plan on staying a little after. And as you can see, it's small, so maybe we can correlate that, like half people come before and half people come after. Otherwise, if it's not convenient for you to do that, you can certainly come by at a different time during the week and shop. And we'll let you know the guidelines when we do that with you. Let's see. So the last thing is that we do take photos, and we'll give back feedback forms at the end of the class, so you'll be able to write what you thought and say what you liked or what you think could be done better. And so we use that for quality control, but we would like to be able to also use those for marketing purposes. So we have a gala every year that we bring in a lot of donations, and so when we can say, hey, look at these people who really liked the class, and this is what they said, and here's their happy face and their pregnant belly, it makes people give money a lot more so we can keep doing things for free. That is optional, and if you do not want your picture or anything shared, I will 100% make sure that doesn't happen. So don't feel any pressure to sign that. Just let me know yes or no. All right. Do you have any questions about any of that? Okay. Let's see. Do you have any questions about the schedule? What to expect in the future? You may sign up for Wednesday and Thursday classes if you'd like to simultaneously. It's fine to do that. You can also plan on, say you wanted to go a whole track of Wednesdays, and then when the cycle starts again, you can go on Thursdays. Of course, that depends on how long you're going to be pregnant, so that's up to you. And, all right. Well, without further ado, then, I will introduce Dr. Turner, one of our most dedicated and cherished presenters. Thank you so much. He actually does 2 presentations, so he'll be back during our postpartum education to talk about taking care of yourself ergonomically post-childbirth. So today he's going to talk about taking care of yourself during pregnancy and also during labor and delivery if we get to it. So we shall see. And thank you. I'm going to transfer this to you. Pass the baton that you love. Okay, I'll switch that up for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany.
Oh, one last thing. At any point that you'd like to get up and use the restroom, it's the first door on the left there, and don't feel like you have to wait for a break, but we will take a break in 30 minutes.
Okay. Keep me posted.
All right.
Because I'll ramble. All right. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. So along your magical journey, unfortunately, as you well know, I mean, how far along is everybody? Since that's such a small group.
Oh, yeah.
28 weeks?
Intros. Can we do that with you?
Yeah.
So we'll take that. I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
So my name is Ben Turner. I'm a chiropractor here in Grants Pass. How much more? Originally from Coos Bay. Lived in Oregon my whole life. Went to school in McMinnville. There's a small college up there, and then did my chiropractic training in Portland, and then located to Grants Pass December 18th of 2006. I've been practicing ever since. So, do you want to round robin? Is that kind of what you're wanting?
Yeah, let's do it. My name is Summer. These are my two boys. That's Preston. He's 8. Willow, he's 3. And I am 28 weeks pregnant with a little girl.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
My name is Jamie. This is my first time being pregnant, and I am 23.5 weeks with a little boy.
Oh, congratulations.
Later than the son.
This is also my first time being pregnant, and I'm only 12 weeks pregnant. So.
I'm Eric. I'm her husband, and I'm
You're not pregnant?
not
Dang. Oh. Well, I'm glad you guys are all able to make it. So, and for venturing out in the smoke, it's kind of blech. So, thanks for being here. So, as I was saying, as you're heading down this journey, various stages, your body's going to change, duh. But unfortunately, one of the side effects of being pregnant is usually discomfort, pain usually, as the mechanics of your body changes to accommodate growing tummy. We start putting new stresses and strains on our body. Something to look forward to. So there's usually two sources of pain that that people experience. It's either coming from muscle pain or joint pain. Commonly, the muscle pain is experienced as burning, almost like tingly, itchy kind of pain. Usually comes on in like a band sensation or a band pattern. Joint pain is usually either achy or sharp. There's more common ways that it's described. So the muscle pain is $10 term for it's ischemic pain. So usually what ends up happening is as your body changes and you start demanding more of your muscles, it's usually that middle back, low back section is most common. Sometimes it'll eventually creep up between your shoulder blades and get into your neck too as your body changes. But as weight starts to transfer out into the front, if you just gave into it, you would eventually lean forward and fall over. So that's not going to pan out. So eventually your body, you start to lean back to accommodate for the growing weight out front. Okay, fine. So what ends up happening is as this weight's out further out in front of you and you have to lean back more to accommodate that, the muscles along your back have to work a lot harder than normal all the time. Now, especially if you're upright at all, which there's not too much of life that allows us to be flat on our back all day long. So as you're asking your muscles to work harder and harder, day in and day out as your pregnancy progresses, eventually they don't get a chance to really loosen up or stretch out. And muscles are kind of an interesting system. It's kind of a passive system. Your heart pumps, pushes blood around your system, pushes it into your muscles, and your muscles have little holes that normally would just let it leak out, get recollected, and circulate back around it goes. No big deal. Well, as you're tightening up these muscles, the muscles are actually, like I said, literally tightening, and then the little windows are getting shut off. So your heart's a pump, so it pressurizes and fills up your muscles with blood, but pretty quick it's not leaking out as fast as it's supposed to. So, with blood, it should be oxygen and nutrients to help keep your muscles working like normal. Pretty quick, that exchange isn't all that great. And I'll back up. So, good stuff in, and as the old blood leaks out, it's taking away waste products, carbon dioxide and what have you, to be picked up and, cleaned out down the way. So that exchange isn't happening all that well. So pretty quick, you have a shortage of oxygen, shortage of nutrients, and you're getting backed up with, fumes, exhaust, basically. So pretty quick, you get a kind of a chemical irritant, if you will, and that's so your body's way of saying, hey, I don't like what's happening in here is pain. So that's what you get. So it's the same concept with a heart attack. When anybody has a heart attack, wherever it gets plugged at, from that point down the way, it doesn't get fresh blood and what have you, but your heart keeps pumping, right, where it's supposed to. And so from that point forward, it's not getting fresh oxygen, fresh nutrients, what have you, and it's getting fumes backed up. Voila, you get pain in your chest. So if If anybody tells you that your back pain is not serious, you tell them it's as serious as a heart attack. Oh, thank you very much. So that's ischemic pain. The other one, like I said, joint pain, and that kind of has two subcategories. One is oftentimes in this low back area. Again, women tend to lean back to try to accommodate that changing weight, and as we do that, as we lean back to accommodate that, these little guys here, they're called facet joints, start crashing into each other basically. So you end up with this mini collision of your joints, and pretty quick, your body doesn't like that kind of, head-on collision all day long, and so you'll get irritation of your facet joints. The other half of that too is there are certain sections of our body that, as we'll lean back to accommodate, but other portions of our body that we tend to start kind of hanging on. And as kind of like with our muscles, there is ligamentous tissue around your joints, and after a while you hang on those guys, and they don't like being hung on chronically like that. And so again, your body's way of saying that it doesn't like something is kind of needling you and causing you pain.
Can we save all of our questions to the end?
You don't have to.
Oh, no,
What you
that's
got?
fine.
You can, or if you got something that, go for it. I don't mind interactive stuff.
Can I ask you, what's the best thing for the back pain, especially like mid-back?
Between your shoulder blades?
Yeah, like.
That's a tough one. So for most of us in our world is out and then down. And so a large part of it is where we keep our head. So you have little people, they're down. Computers, all this kind of stuff makes our average head 10 to 12 pounds. So you got this 10 to 12 pound bowling ball hanging out in front of you. So I would say in a preventative fashion, trying to be aware of where your head's at, So ideally, you try to keep your bowling ball over the top of your shoulders and try to pivot right here, right behind your jaw, so to speak. That's the prevention side of it, to keep you from hanging on those muscles. The remedy side of it, so to speak, would be, and we'll get to it down the road, things like massage, hot baths, hot showers, stuff like that. Fluids, lots of fluids, because that'll help, even though they're tight muscles, it'll help hydrate and try to flush some of the junk that gets trapped in there. Where's that? And I will deviate a lot, so bear with me. Okay, so we got tight muscles tightening up. You got joints you're kind of grumping up by either smashing into them or hanging on them. And so as your pregnancy progresses, there's a hormone that your body will start to create called relaxin. Seems like a handy tool. Its job is to basically make your joints loose, aimed at, more specifically, the pelvis. So here's your, since there's only a few of us. So here's your spine, here's your pelvis. And so baby is going to pass through the pelvis. So if it's pretty fixed, it's going to be kind of a challenge. So body decides to make this stuff relax and again make your joints kind of flimsy so that they'll give way and the baby will hopefully pass through a lot easier, which would be fine if it just stayed in your pelvis, but it goes to all your joints. So pretty quick you actually will find that you can experience some kind of rubberiness or instability everywhere, and it's, which makes it dangerous, because if there's certain areas of your body that we tend to hang on with posture, the whole neck thing, what have you. So now you've got this, that's usually what ends up happening. So we'll hang so far on our muscles, and pretty quick muscles get tired of that, and then you hang a little further, and then you're hanging on the joints. Okay, well then this relaxin thing kicks in, and pretty soon allows it to give a little more. So now you're adding that much more strain on all your joints and ligaments, which then will, your body's going to let you know even further with additional pain. So it's usually experienced more in the low back because it's pelvis area, because it's weight bearing. If you're walking around, your legs plug in right here. So as you're standing, walking, what have you, and this starts getting pretty loosey-goosey, then it's easy for you to agitate your low back, pelvis, what have you, because it's moving around more than it's supposed to. And this whole relaxin thing escalates, as you're getting closer to term, closer to delivery, and then it sticks around for some reason up to 6 weeks after you stop breastfeeding, this whole relaxin thing. Why the function of that is, I'm not exactly sure. I didn't design it, but that's another thing which we'll kind of talk about. The postpartum thing is once you get into start carrying a baby and changing a baby and feeding a baby and what have you, and you still got this relaxing thing floating through your body, it can be kind of tricky. So, So regarding that kind of structural stuff, again, depending on where you're at in your pregnancy, ideally you would be addressing some of that with a little bit of prevention in the sense of some level of strengthening or activity in general, because part of what kills us, all of us, is the fact that our life is usually pretty monotonous. You know, we kind of our jobs or our life or what have you tend to be, not super dynamic. We do the same things over and over again, putting the same stresses on our body over and over again, and that's usually where we start creating quote unquote weak spots, in our frame. So if you were to get out and wiggle around and use your body a little bit more, outside whatever your normal daily life would be, that would help to try to minimize some of these stress points that we create in our frame. The other part of that would be, some level of strengthening. Trying to basically prepare your body for these changes and hopefully strengthen the muscle side of it so that it can endure the changing stresses that's going to occur during the pregnancy, as well as try to minimize the whole ischemic thing, because it can put up with the load better is what it boils down to. So I'm going to back up before we get that far. Any questions? That kind of junk? Okay. So, the popcorn, Mom. So a little more prevention kind of stuff. So, again, as your body's already being stressed and relaxing things going on, your body's kind of getting grumpy. So there are some better ways to sit, stand, what have you, to try to put some of the stresses or change some of these stresses on your body. So sitting in particular. So most of us, this is a good spot. So if I were to, usually when we sit down, what tends to happen, most chairs allow us to sit like this. Your back, I say your belly button. Your belly button is able to go backwards. That naturally puts your head and your shoulders forward, and so you're already killing your upper back and your shoulders. And now, this isn't going to, I wouldn't make it work. So if I'm sitting like this, now I'm hanging on everything from just below my belt, top of my butt, clear up to here. All this stuff that's round now is just hanging on for dear life. You're hanging on the muscles and you're hanging on your joints. And so that's setting yourself up for failure, basically. So ideally, when you sit, and the problem is most chairs don't facilitate it very good. Like couches, recliners, all that kind of stuff, they tend to be squishy, and they tend to be deep seated. Where your butt and your thighs are. They tend to be really deep. And I don't know who they make them for, the Jolly Green Giant, because most people don't have thighs this long. You know what I mean? So by the time you sit in a chair like that, like a little kid on the your legs are sticking out, your back's sucked into it, and then you're just, like I said, beating yourself up. So if you could change the mechanics if, how many pillows? Usually Brittany has, I'm spoiled, usually Brittany's got pillows and stuff for me, all. But so usually if you can get something to stick in the small of your back, usually, it doesn't have to be crazy, don't go out and buy like lumbar pillows and stuff like that. Just get a couch pillow or some small buffer, so to speak, so that if you were to put it in the back of your chair and you sat down, the small of your back would hit the pillar or what have you, and keep your belly button out in front of you. Woohoo! Thank you. So there we go. So that's in my chair, and I'm sitting down. So now, before my shoulders can even hit the whatever I'm sitting up against, I have to break over the top of my pillow, and now my tummy, my belly button, is out in front of me. And this keeps my head over the top of my spine, so even my head's in a better spot, not just my low back. Yeah. You ready?
Talk about exercise already?
Nope, I held off.
No, I just want to make sure I didn't miss it.
Nope. I held off because I knew you had a magical piece. So where was I headed with that? So anyway, yeah. And that goes for not just couches and recliners, but car seats, or like for us, car seats. Grown-up car seats. Because those are almost worse. Most car seats are not just an L like that, like a couch would be. They're tipped up like that, so it actually points your knees up towards the ceiling, which makes it even worse. Now, like I said, now you're kind of folding yourself into a ball, basically, and driving however long you're going to drive. So if your car can, you try to tip your seat towards at least flat, and then put the pillow in the small of your back, or if you have lumbar support, crank it up. I even tell some people, depending on how bad of an angle that is, you can even put something to sit on so that your butt and the back of your legs are more on the level plane. Because basically, the more that you bend right at your belt line, the harder it is on your low back. See how I move around a lot. So I'll go ahead and segue into, so edema. That'll be another magical piece of your pregnancy. So, because sitting in chairs that are usually have poor ergonomics also will help facilitate swelling in your legs. So does anybody know what edema is? A $10 term for swelling. So basically, if you sit with your legs hanging off of whatever, you're kind of creating a tourniquet for your legs. So, because the only thing that pushes stuff back to your heart is your own motion. So your heart pumps blood around, but once it gets to wherever it's headed, it's a passive system at that point, meaning somebody else has to do the work. And so for most of us, we wiggle around. Wiggle your toes, whatever it is you're doing, your calves turn into the pump to help get it back, up your leg, and then you wiggle around. Our diaphragm is a big pump to help push it back into your heart as well. So if you get stuck traveling for long periods of time, your legs are hanging off the seat, especially if the ones that are built like this. Now you've got right here where your legs hang off of it. Like I said, it's kind of a pressure point up underneath the back of your legs, kind of creating almost like a tourniquet, so fluid can build up in the bottom, half of your legs, which can be dangerous, especially on long flights, because that's where you run the risk or the scare of blood clots. Basically, if you always have backed up pressure like that, then you can run the risk of developing a blood clot is the scare. So should I stay with? So I'm going to carry on with varicose veins just real quick. See, I move around a lot. No.
You don't have to stay in that house. You can say whatever you
Oh,
want.
thank goodness. Okay. Because I don't want to segue too far from sleeping, or from sitting and what have you. So I think I beat the sitting thing to death. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? So like I said, the real quick nuts and bolts of it is if you're bending in the front, the more you're bending in the front, the more pressure it is on your low back. You're killing it. So as elongated as you can be, lying flat, or reclining your chair back, either in the car, or if you have a recliner, and you want to sit, put the pillow in the small of your back and try to recline to try to keep pressure on the small of your back and also open this angle up. Make a big difference, especially if you have to get caught there for extended periods of time. Sleeping. So sleeping is a whole other challenge for most pregnant folks. I'm not sure how you girls are doing so far.
It's like hard to turn because you get those backaches in your lower back.
Yep.
You turn your sharp pain.
Yep.
Yeah, every time you want to turn in, you can't really sleep on your belly.
Nope, not so much.
You shouldn't sleep on your back. So it's like side to side.
All night long.
Yeah.
Exactly. So are you experiencing any of that yet, Jean?
No, I'm just like cramping right now.
Really?
Yeah.
When you're sleeping or when you lay down?
When I'm sleeping, sometimes I'll stretch out at night and then I'm just I get and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
You try to barb ivory soap in your bed?
That's for arthritis.
Apparently it works for that too.
Really?
I tried it. My mom swears by it.
Oh, my grandpa used to do that.
I'm guessing it's the magnesium, right?
What did they say?
Or
I would think.
What is the other? The barbed ivory soap, which is high in magnesium in your bed. Also, taking magnesium, I heard, was a good thing.
I would just take the magnesium. There's some There's some cheap magnesium supplements you can put in water, and that'll help to minimize some of that. Usually it's an electrolyte balance in general. Magnesium gets a lot of notoriety, but all of them are important. Calcium, magnesium, potassium, all those guys. So an easy, cheap fix would be, I think, is coconut water if you can tolerate it. Coconut water. It's got a really good electrolyte profile, and it's the sugar in it's natural as opposed to like Gatorade and stuff like that's junk. It's got food coloring, it's got dyes in it and junk sugar, table sugar. So coconut water, easy. And then if is it your calves that are hammering you or your hamstrings?
It's all of it. It's on my whole lower.
Whole lower leg,
Yeah.
but on the back half. So
Yeah, it's all on the back.
okay, so
Good thing is that totally gets better later on in your pregnancy.
Really?
no, it doesn't. That is not true. As I said, this is a prelude, man.
But I'm not the only one who's having cramps in my legs, right? Have you had them yet?
I actually had one the other night, like woke me up, like my whole entire leg, it just felt like it was like cringing up.
Yeah.
Like it was horrible.
Up the back, like this?
Like just on my calf.
On your calf? Okay, so
It woke me up, like I jumped up. It was
so he
like,
shot you in the leg.
yeah. I had to hold my leg, like I couldn't bend it. It was terrible.
So here's what you should do before you go to bed. This is going to be part of your nighttime routine is find something, a chair or whatever, about yay high, and you're going to get one leg up on it, best that you can. If it's too high, then get some shorter and watch TV or whatever you want to be doing, and just the old hamstring stretch, just like this. 1 minute, okay, for that guy. I know, I'm this crazy. Switch, 1 minute. Now I want you to do 1 minute on each. Then we need to find something for your calves. That'll help with the hamstrings. And then for calves, preferably some kind of a step. Like you could either use the wall or if you have I always get a 4x4, a chunk of 4x4 if you have one handy. Otherwise, you just need something to get your foot caught on. So even the wall would work. Like if you got your foot on something like that, and then preferably something you can get your face past, and you're going to lean past it. Like that. Now let's both calves, 1 minute, 2 times, 2 minutes on each. So you're going to get your foot up against, like I said, somebody, I don't care what. Get it like that and get your nose, keep leaning until your nose is past your calves. Same thing, both sides, and that'll keep it. Because that's part of the gig is as your tummy's out in here, you're having to change the way you walk. And so you end up putting more load on your hamstrings and your calves. And so the more you're on your feet, the more you're going to ratchet them up. When you go to lay down, they're kind of a hair trigger, and you go to, you wiggle around in your sleeper, you go to stretch, and bam, that's when it hits you. Because at least when you're walking around, you're half stretching every step you take. You're kind of keeping it, but you lay down, and it just ratchets up, and now it's a hair trigger for one of those magical moments. So if you can stretch it just a little bit, and coconut water, magnesium, what have you, it'll make a big difference. Because like Brittany said, it's not going to get better. It's a one-way street, man. For no bueno.
Nothing.
I know.
Sometimes nausea.
If you're lucky. Oh. It's all worth it. So sleeping, we'll touch on that real quick. Because just like you're describing, Summer, most people it's side to side all night long. The whole sleeping on your back thing, it's usually more of a risk in the first trimester. The second trimester is, I don't know. I think there's some argument. Do you guys know the why behind that? As far as don't sleep on your back?
More of a risk in the first trimester?
No, it's usually permitted in the first trimester, and then beyond that, it's usually considered more risky.
See, for me, it doesn't bother me, but they say that it cuts off the oxygen supply to the baby.
That's,
I don't know all
which is weird. I don't understand. You'd have to be an awfully big baby. I don't know the mechanics. So the idea is right, here's your spine, just like this, and up one side is one big vessel, and up the other side is another big vessel. This on your left side is an artery, so it's pressurized. Boom! Every time your heart beats, it's driving blood through. Okay, this side is the side that's got no pressure. It's a giant vein, And just like we were talking about, the only thing that really pushes blood through veins is wiggling, movement. So when we sleep, we don't wiggle much. We breathe, though, and that's our diaphragm. Pushes it, kind of like a pump, and helps mush it back to get to your heart. Well, because this side's pressurized, it's not as risky. But this side being not pressurized, the idea is that the baby could lay on it and restrict the blood flow that would return back to your heart, which would eventually restrict the amount of blood flow that circulated everywhere.
So I guess it would have to depend on the position of the baby and all that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables, but so here's the deal. So all through your pregnancy, they tell you don't do that. But at the peak of your pregnancy, when you're going to deliver, they'll stick you on your back for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. So I don't exactly know. I don't know that I believe the idea of don't ever sleep on your back. But that's conventional. That's conventional wisdom, is basically not beyond first trimester. So go fish. So, well, with that in mind, side sleeping is usually the most preferred position for most people. So when we sleep on our side, I don't have props yet. Well, I'll use this one. So side sleeping, for most people, if your bed, we'll say that your bed's firm. We'll go down that road eventually. So you got a reasonably firm bed. Most people don't just sleep. You know, you got one leg over, you got one arm kind of weirded out, what have you. And so eventually, this is a scenario where you're hanging on stuff. We already talked about we don't like hanging on our body. So in an ideal world, during your pregnancy, pillows are going to be your best friend. So pretty soon you're going to have this whole collection of pillows around you. You should, because one's for your head. So ideally, I got one for my head, sleep on. I got one between my knees, because if you let this top leg fall down, now it's just a giant pry bar for your low back and your hips. Okay? Now, the longer you leave it there, like I said, the more grumpy it's going to get. So if you get one pillow between your knees, that'll help take the tension off your pry bar. Ideally, you'd have a second pillow for up here for your arms, because it's the same idea. Obviously, leg, if it falls across your body, it's going to torque your shoulders and your neck, and then you kind of get this weird compression thing occurring through your chest. So, it's trying to follow my. That's okay. So ideally, you have a pillow here to kind of keep your shoulders spread apart and keep your arm from falling off. Usually, what facilitates this really well is a body pillow. A body pillow, it'll hold up everything. You can tuck it right up against you. Hold everything.
Really just wants to videotape you because he's covering up the microphone. It's like, where'd you go, Dr. Turner? Where'd you go? There you are.
I'm back. So much pillow land. So a body pillow usually facilitates it really well. The one other thing to consider about pillows is, especially since you're a side sleeper, if you're a side sleeper, which most of that being, is actually taking a regular pillow, a small one, and actually kind of wedging it underneath your tummy, lifting your tummy in, and wedging underneath there and making a tummy pillow. Because again, as tummy goes forward, and if you lay on your side, it actually becomes another mini pry bar. Torque up your low back. So if you can, again, get a pillow wedge underneath your tummy, and then one for your this, one for that, you get it. So one for your tummy, but I think at the very least a body pillow is a sound investment for most people.
Or if you have an extra 150 or so, you can buy one of those specially made for pregnancies that are shaped like a J.
Just Nuvo pillows?
Just saying, if you have some good people coming to your baby shower,
It's all for my birthday.
there you go for your birthday. Nice.
Sweet, Anne.
I love that pillow.
Yeah?
It's the only pillow I sleep with. My boyfriend got it ever for my birthday.
Booyah, nice.
Lucky girl.
I get the high five. And a little segue beyond with that is the whole bed thing. So if you have a soft bed, when you lay on it, it will give way. So again, soft bed. There we go. So if you have, so now we're jamming up the top side and we're hanging on the bottom side. So preferably, again, you don't want a stone slab, but preferably some kind of furnished bed. So if that's a possibility to accommodate. If it's not, if you have a squishy bed, have low back pain before or after pregnancy and anywhere in between, that might be a silent culprit. This is squishy good. Do we need a break or are we good? Cause
We can go another 5 minutes or so.
okay, because I think the next thing is I'll segue next to the stretching and strengthening stuff.
Okay.
And then it would be.
Can you just tell me what you think of this exercise, and so that way we all can see. Okay.
Oh, I'm gonna
Stop. Is she pregnant?
Oh my God. I think it was all going swimmingly.
Seriously, my husband was working out today, and my 1-year-old is like working out with him. She works out with him. It's great. She does like insanity. But I try to work out. As soon as I start doing anything physical, she's like on my legs, crying, climbing me. So I'm like, I can't do this in an ergonomically correct way. Trying to do like just like holding the baby on your hip doesn't work. But seriously, that's what happens. Trying to work out with the baby. So yeah. Do what you can, ladies. Awesome. You want to take a few minute break and get snack? I'm going to put the food away after the break, so which is now, and yeah, restroom's right around the corner. Stretch a little.
Any questions? I'm glad to field some of them now.
Oh yeah, if anyone has questions, great idea. I have a question. So, why do I want to sit like this all the time? Even though it hurts after a little while. And even though I've been through your presentation many, many times, I will still find myself sitting like this until I'm hurting and I'm like, oh, Dr. Turner's helping me out like 20 times. And then I'm hurting. Why?
Usually what?
Is it weak abs?
No, not weak abs. That's a fallacy. Weak abs are a fallacy. Usually short hip flexors.
Oh, I do have issues with that.
And that's usually the deal. So if you sit like I'm coaching and ergonomic, you're going to open that up, and after a while, it's not very comfortable. It'd be like if you had any short muscle and you just hung on it long enough, it'd talk back to you. So eventually, yeah, you get like put slack in the psoas. I'm happy. And then, but on the flip side, your low back is just getting silently beat to death. And so you're just trading one for the other.
I had no idea. So smart.
Well, that's usually a silent culprit.
Tight.
Is a memory foam bed okay, or is that too soft?
Oh, answer on it.
What?
Don't listen.
You will not like it. As a general rule, I don't think memory foam's a good idea because it's nice right out of the gate, and that's usually what gets people as they go to the store. Nobody sleeps at the store. You lay on it for 5 minutes. Oh, this is great. Oh, this is magical. And then you take it home and you sleep on it, and that's what starts doing its damage. And it's the same idea. Most memory foam beds, they conform to you, which sounds good, except for most of us just spent the day being bad to your body. So part of sleep is this natural decompression phenomenon that should occur. So you're going to get to your bed. It should be firm enough to where you almost have to give to your bed a little bit so that it's straightening you out is the idea. So if you go to bed crooked and I lay in a bed that just accommodates my whatever, and I get up and then it actually accentuates it because eventually it's giving into your body. So it's kind of accentuating your whatever, and then you get up and then you're just carrying on. You're kind of perpetuating. You're kind of feeding the monster is the idea. So as a general rule, I think memory foam toppers are good. 1 to 2 inches memory foam toppers are great because at some point, if you're a side sleeper or what have you, shoulders, hips, what have you, bony stuff, they don't like to be mashed on. So having something to kind of cradle those points, great. But the underlying portion of your bed should offer you some support such that it doesn't just give way to you. I know it sounds weird. Give way to it. Be comfy, be tender, be soft. But it's kind of a silent monster for his body in general.
Shoot, I think I'm convinced now.
But I mean, I think one of the better beds out there now. I mean, they're overpriced like most beds are. The Sleep Number. They suck though because most of them. It's got 2 beds, you know. It's usually split in the middle, so you can do yours and I can do mine. So there's a weird crack in the middle. It gets caught in that, you know. But otherwise, you know, you truly get to customize it to yourself. You know, like I said, because everybody, you know, women can tolerate usually a bed that's a little, you know, I don't know, usually a little more forgiving. Plus they have hips, so that's the other thing, you know, sometimes you need to accommodate the, you know, the curvature of your hips and what have you. Guys usually don't have hips, so they can sleep on their sides or whatever, it's no big deal with a firm bed, you know, but so like I said, the whole Sleep Number thing, that's usually where it gets into with guys, you know, want this, and like women want that, and a little bit of a struggle, tug of war there, and the Sleep Number thing tends to be kind of a cure-all, but they're expensive.
Maybe they'll get sued someday for like lack of intimacy.
The crack, I won't go to that side. You won't come to that side. So I think they do make them that are all one, but then you're back to square one.
Right.
I want it on 75. Well, I want it on 82. Well, oh my gosh. You know, kind of back to the same thing. So
you mentioned that as we're growing and stuff and getting bigger, we kind of like loosen up. Is that our ligaments or muscles?
ligaments or structures.
So you said that can last until you're done nursing. So what if you nurse for like years? You're always going to be kind of a little wiggly and off balance.
Yeah, that's the danger. That's the danger. You've got kind of a wiggly, loosey-goosey frame. So you're charged with, you know, basically.
What? You guys play nice, okay? Please don't put your hands on me, okay?
So you are, like I said, so there you are. You're charged with, you know, good posture, good this, good that. More so because of that very thing. You know, you're going to be hanging on your frame more and setting yourself up for more pain, basically. Or as soon as you can get back to it, depending on where you're at in your pregnancy. In an ideal world, you'd be doing some kind of strength training stuff prior to pregnancy to help beef that up.
Right.
Or as soon as you could after pregnancy, a strength training regimen to try to, you know, develop your muscles such that they can tolerate more of the load and you're not pulling on your joints as much. And then, you know, gives you some more proper relaxing situations.
Right.
But yeah, that's part of that's why most women end up with a lot of pain.
Oh yeah.
Truly. I mean, and it starts, you know, that's once they get pregnant. And after that, it's kind of a tough thing to get back behind. Because life doesn't slow down.
Yeah, I know. Like, I had the back pain when I was pregnant, and then after I was pregnant, it was like all this little neck rapes. You're carrying the car seat, and then baby's growing. Yeah.
Yep.
And then you are kind of hunched weird, just depending on where you're nursing at.
Yep.
And if you have the support, if you don't, you're just kind of like trying to hold your baby.
Yeah. Trying to do both at once.
Yeah.
Looking at, it's an ergonomic nightmare, man.
So then you just end up with all this pain. I ended up in physical therapy after him. I nursed him for 2 years. I think like after the first year, I ended up having to go to physical therapy because it was like so much pain.
I fall asleep nursing and I wake up like, no, how did I just sleep? Oh.
And that's the other thing.
I start physical therapy the day after tomorrow.
Oh, do you?
Back. Yeah, because my back pain is really, really bad right now.
They did.
Where's that for the?
Yeah, there's just a certain section of my back. I went to a chiropractor. I went to Access Health to see Dr. Morton quite a few times, and then they just told me that they can't help me anymore because every time I go back, my back they adjust me, and then they said in order for us to like really fix you, you have to come in every couple days. And I was like, I don't have the kind of money to come in every couple days. And then they were like, oh, well then I would do prenatal massaging, and I'm like, that's really expensive. And my insurance covered chiropractic, but it doesn't cover massage. So I went to see my doctor, and she's like, well, we'll just send you to physical therapy for your back, and then hopefully that'll help.
They did ultrasound therapy. I think it was, maybe it was it ultrasound therapy? Yeah.
It's just a different frequency than the first thing.
And they connect these little things too, and it brings like all these little frequencies into your back, and
Oh,
it feels really good.
What is it? What is it?
I guess it's been a while. I think it's ultrasound.
So ultrasound has got a wand.
Okay, so this wasn't the wand. They actually connected the little pads onto me.
So
and
it's electric stim.
Yeah, you could feel the pulsating and so relieving. It felt
Yeah,
so
I have really bad muscle spasms, is what they said. I have a really swollen SI joint and a twisted pelvis.
That I could barely even walk with my last pregnancy. I couldn't exercise at all until I started getting that done. And I went every week for the last like 2 months of my pregnancy because I seriously couldn't barely move. I couldn't sleep. And it made such a difference. I so wish that I had done that before. Apparently you can get your own.
You can.
I don't know about those.
It's a TENS unit is what it is, and yes, they're just not quite as strong as the professional version.
Is it dangerous to try to do that yourself?
No, I mean you just you don't always get the same level of relief because it's not as powerful, but you know they're pretty discreet. You know, it's about this big. You know.
And is it what does it do?
Well, so usually there's kind of two frequencies that they're working with. It's either one frequency is basically to interrupt the pain signal that goes to your brain, says, hey, this hurts. And then the other one is almost like if you could envision like a, electrical, waves passing through the pulsing, almost like a massage,
So only chiropractors do this?
No, PTs have them. As far as the TENS units, or the electric stim.
Oh, because those are two different things.
Well, it's the same technology. Like I said, the TENS unit is like the over-the-counter version.
So the doctor version.
The doctor version. Do only chiropractors have it? No, chiropractors. A lot of them don't have it anymore for whatever reason. But most of your PT folks have it.
Okay, cool.
But, yeah, I should back up. There is another frequency that's aimed at actually contracting your muscle, causing it to turn on. And the idea of that is finally exercise it to the point of fatigue at a neurological level. It just gives up. Is the other side of it. But usually the pain relief / massaging is the one that's usually most comfortable because you don't want just a fatigue muscle. You got to use it tomorrow. But it's old technology, but it's fantastic. And I don't know. Even most of your PT folks, you kind of have to sometimes poke at them. They don't like to use it. But what it is.
I know. Usually I'll work because I work with a lot of foot and ankle, so I have to do a lot of casting on the bottom, taking stitches out of feet on the ground all the time, like hunched over. And by the time the day is over, I feel like an old lady. I can't even walk. I'm sitting like my back. And I'll just be in my chair just like this. This is like the only way I'm sitting, and I'm typing like this.
Oh no, now it's gonna make more problems.
People are like, oh, that looks uncomfortable. I'm like, it feels so much better. This feels so much better than sitting up. But
nope, you're right.
That's how I am every day. By the end of the day, it hurts so bad.
Just whooped. Gotcha. So it's a bummer that there's some home stuff you could be doing to help minimize that.
I went to the ER last week because my back pain was so bad, and my doctor just said take Tylenol, but Tylenol doesn't do anything for me at all. It doesn't help at all. And I was getting massages done just by a family friend who does them, and it still wasn't helping. And then they gave me a muscle relaxer, but I've just been too scared to take it.
That is kind of nice. I mean, I know sometimes it's okay.
They said this is like the only thing that you can really. It was like Flexeril. They said this is the safest thing that you can take while being pregnant.
Have you tried stretching or doing any yoga? Just it sounds crazy, but it feels so much better just to hold a stretch sometimes and just to kind of pull it out.
I just lay on the ground and just try and stretch out, and it helps temporarily, but I just feel like there's a certain section of my back that's so tight and will not.
It's stuck.
What do you think about that?
Go again?
Oh, I've seen
Is it-
those.
Oh.
Has a hole for your
So
belly.
also, there's a place in Ashland that makes pregnancy pillows. Jennifer Medley has one. I think she'll probably bring when she comes, and it has hole for your boobs and your belly, which is really cool.
That's the way to go. That's pretty slick, man.
Like that's gonna take some pressure off, but you're probably not even pregnancy related at this point, right? Not yet.
They told me that when I went to the chiropractor, that it was a pre-existing condition that's just getting worse and worse and worse since my pregnancy. So I'm like, well, I never noticed like any back pain before.
Oh really?
Yeah, now is like where I'm like feeling everything. Like it started in my lower back, and I was having a lot of like pelvic pain, and then that just went away, and then it just started going to my muscles and going up my back.
You could maybe try to like see if your doctor would approve you to. I ended up getting a back brace, or like a belly brace, back brace thing, and it like pulls your belly up and it takes that support off your back.
That's what they said. That at physical therapy they might give me a brace.
Just wear it
So
under.
I went to physical therapy and they gave me one, but they wanted me to pick. It was like $150.
Really?
The brace people were so nice. They were like, they gave me a printout of the exact same brand off Amazon for $30. They're like,
wow.
It's the size we fitted you for. Here you go. They were so nice.
What?
That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. It was so helpful. I cannot even tell you. I worked for like half my pregnancy, my last one.
And you just wear it under your clothes so nobody even knows you have it on.
I just feel like, because there's some other girls who are pregnant at my work with me, but I'm farther along than they are. We're all 2 weeks apart, but I'm the farthest ahead. But none of them are having any issues, and I'm like over here dying. And then
How long have you been at that job?
Since February.
Okay. Were they there before you? Or?
Yeah. And this is their second pregnancy. This is my first one. I don't know if that makes a difference, but theirs is going totally fine, and mine, I just feel like I'm in.
I think everyone has different body mechanics.
Why is it me?
Yeah,
Why
I had
me?
4, and every pregnancy was so different, just as different as all 4 kids are.
Really?
I mean, it just like so different. Every pregnancy, every childbirth, and every kid, totally different. Like a brand new time, brand new experience at a time.
With him, I had a lot of.
You have skills, but you don't.
I had a lot of back problems with this one, not so much with him, but with him, I ended up having such bad back problems. Even when I was in labor, my hips didn't just separate; or my pelvic bone kind of shifted like this, and I pulled muscles in my back, and I couldn't walk after labor. I was in a walker and I had to have physical therapy. I had to have a caretaker when I left the hospital because of not being able to get up and take care of him. So it was really bad when I had him, but with him it was just totally fine. Everything went perfectly fine, and he was 7 pounds 11 ounces. He was 9 pounds. So this one went better than that one. It's every pregnancy is so different, and our bodies just handle it differently.
Don't feel bad about it.
Like I feel like I don't even want to say anything at work when my back is like hurting because I don't want to like complain, but it kills me so bad.
It's tough to get through the day.
Great. Will you just finish
Well, so there's some stuff. And we could talk about it maybe after. That would help.
I'm sorry.
For you specifically.
You're not able to have any plate, okay?
I'd be curious to see what physical therapy offers.
Yeah.
But I do think electric stim would be helpful.
Like right now, all the hard work, like getting down on the floor and casting, I'll do it if I have to, but if there's other people available, they usually just take over the hard work for me, and I just.
Oh, that's nice.
Good, so you got some
Yeah,
support
everyone.
in that
Yeah.
direction. Whew, thank goodness.
I know.
What do you do?
I'm a medical assistant in orthopedics.
Where at? Which office?
I work with Dr. Weeking.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Oh, yeah.
They do, yeah, foot and ankle.
Yeah, he's the one that casted my son last summer, actually.
Really?
Broke his arm. He was the doc that was on call, ER, ortho that was on call.
Yeah.
Reset his arm, and then, of course, continue to take care of it. we almost done? Almost. I'll talk a little bit more. Is that okay? Can I talk a little bit more and then be done?
One break time, please, sure.
No.
Break time. I think you talk enough.
It's
Lord.
also funny.
I know, especially at this age.
How old is he?
He's 3. He just turned 3 this summer. Almost there.
All right, so I'll talk real quick about exercise and stretching stuff. So as far as exercise goes, that's kind of a tricky one because everybody's at various stages of their pregnancy. So the idea of asking some people to jump on a exercise regimen right about now was like, nah. So ideally, the sooner you started doing some exercise kind of stuff, the better, because basically by the end of this program, it's a physical endeavor. You're going to be laboring and then pushing and what have you. So, it's a physical sport at the end of this whole program. So the more in shape you were, the better off it'd be. I think, and it doesn't have to be some big crazy. Some people walk, miles and this and that kind of thing. I do think some light aerobic stuff would be great. Trying to take some short walks. At any point in time in your pregnancy, trying to take some short walks. It'll help with your pelvis, unless there's something really wrong with your pelvis, like walking hurts, which then it needs to be evaluated and find out why it's stabbing you every time you walk. If you don't fall in that category, trying to walk, it helps in essence to kind of reset your pelvis by walking, kind of wiggling it around and loosening it up in a good way, as opposed to just letting it stove up, so to speak. And then, squats. Squats, lunges, exercises like that. That's like the $1 million move, I think, or your squats. It engages your whole lower half, engages your lower back as well, in a good way. All in that orchestrated effort. Squats, or like I said, lunges too would be all right. But
Any weights?
no.
No weights.
Nope,
Just
I don't
body
think-
weight?
Yeah, just body weight. In fact, and so for squats, the big thing about squats is most people, when they're going to do a squat, the first thing they do is bend their knees, and we've done it wrong. After that, it gets worse. All the mechanics are wrong after that. Everything's going forward, and so it just gets real weird after that. So what you want to remember when you're going to do a squat is your butt going backwards. So if you're going to squat, the first thing that happens is you should feel your hips rock back, and then everything should go back from there. So that's the biggest thing, because ideally you want to keep your you want to keep your knees behind your toes. As soon as your knees get out past your toes, you're just killing your knees. That's why squats have such a bad rap, is for that feature right there alone. So, like I said, ideally feet about shoulder width apart, and like I said, first thing is your butt going back. So butt going back, and then you're just sitting into it. And if you want to have like a small, something to aim for, so to speak, you can touch it and come right back up. And if you feel like, because for most people that mechanic, it sounds like it should be easy or simple, but that mechanic is kind of weird to get used to. So for some people, I'll tell them, like if you can get a door jamb and hang on to something like this. It works out really good because you can use your arms to kind of help assist you and stabilize you. And so from here, I think I'm wearing a little bit low. Same. Okay, your butt goes back, and you can keep yourself behind your toes. And then from here, ideally you want to try to drive out of it with your heels, not your toes, and you can assist with your arms, but you don't want to push out of it with your toes. And you're not wanting the load to be out in front of you. You want it to be behind you. You want to be using your basically the back there. You do use your quads too, but it'll take a lot of pressure off your knees. So just squats, or you can do it at the table too. Same idea. If you're going to hang on here, you kind of sit into it, whoop, pull yourself out of it. Maybe not this table, but squats. Like I said, if you just did squats, it makes such a huge difference. Because like I said, it engages your low back, your glutes, everything, inside of your legs, outside of your legs, the whole thing. That's the one extra. That's like the $1 million move. If you wanted more, we could talk about before your pregnancy, there would be some other things you can do. But even now, when I do squats, it'll actually help with your pelvis. It'll help, because that's the other thing is, our butt gets stuck underneath us. It's part of the problem. Like in a sitting position, if you do squats, it helps to work that hinge loose right where your spine and your butt meet. Helps to try to work that loose. So, like I said, squats, $1 million move right there. Where was I headed with that? Stretching. So, some of the stretches we've already talked about
like I said, it's usually the back of our legs that end up bad because of pregnancy for what we talked about. So we talked about the hamstring stretch, calf stretch. So those are two super important ones. Usually for the other big thing is usually back. Low back is usually the worst. So for that, depending on what your level of pregnancy is, knees to chest kind of stuff. So anything that kind of curls and tries to stretch that out. So usually, if you can tolerate it, if you can still, knees to chest. Usually it's like this. Straight up is kind of get your glutes a little bit, but really if you want to get your low back, you want to go this way. So stretch this way, and it kind of should get your upper glute here a little bit. So opposite shoulder more important. I think for your low back, if you can still, again, depending where you're at in your pregnancy, you're reaching for your toes, kind of a thing where if you can envision kind of locking your legs up and reaching for your toes and letting this part do the bending, as opposed to trying to stretch your hamstrings, reaching like this, leaning from side to side. You can even use a table to facilitate the same idea, where you're almost using the table as an anchor, where you can then lean away from it. So you almost, if you can envision this kind of traction open, so you're hanging on to an anchor, maybe the doorway would be better, leaning back and saying, oh, thank you. Turning one direction to stretch one side, turning the other direction, stretch that side. Another one, another good stretch. Even if you just did side stretching, like this, because that's another get keyed up as your obliques and your QL, so stretching, little teapot, I call it for my patients. Another good way to do that is get up against a chair, get up against the arm of a chair, and let your body break over the arm of the chair, try to open that up. Usually those are the big ones, are QLs, paraspinal. Massage would be great. In an ideal world, we'd have massage available to us all the time. Heat. And they say as your pregnancy progresses, avoid getting too hot. So you don't want to just go plunge yourself in a hot tub, but you can at least use a heating pad, up until the latter portion of the third trimester to try to facilitate some heat. Stretching your shoulders, like between your shoulder blades, that's kind of a trick. You really, stretching between those, almost impossible, really. Usually what ends up happening for your back is everything across your front's gotten too short. Especially typing or rapping or whatever stuff, we're all bipedal creatures, our eyeballs are all in front of us, so everything's in front of us. So this is usually what ends up happening, is right across here ends up too short. So stretching your chest, so massage and or stretching your chest is usually critical to facilitating happy back muscles between your shoulder blades. So it doesn't have to be super complicated, but this I think is one of the better stretches for that, is just getting your arm up against whatever fixed position or door, I don't really care. Getting it anchored and then kind of walking away from it, kind of cranking around like that. You should feel a stretch right across here. Same idea, ideally a minute, flip around, minute, back and forth. If you really wanted to make that work, so if you really wanted to get that to work, you should get a ball. So I usually tell my patients to get a ball. I don't have a ball. So if you can envision this being a ball, you take that ball and you stick it right in your owie muscle and you lean it right up against the wall. And you lean into it and just use that like a giant knuckle, so to speak.
Like a tennis ball or something?
Tennis ball. I like racquetball because it's a little bit smaller and a little bit firmer than a tennis ball, but hey, whatever. Yeah, you take that tennis ball and you stick it right in there and just, like I said, lean right past it and let that thing start tearing into that. So you can kind of wiggle around. Like I said, you can envision like a giant knuckle to get into that muscle, tear into that, and then you stretch. So ideally you tenderize and stretch, so that you're literally breaking the tissue loose and then pulling it apart. That's the best way to get that to loosen up, and that will translate usually into significant shoulder and neck, upper back shoulder relief. Because like I said, it's this.
And I'm like finding everything that sticks out on like a door handle or something, and I'm like
leaning
over there
into it. Yeah. That's it, and which will feel good. And I'm not saying don't address your back, but if you don't address your front, your back will never change.
Really?
This is the monster, is the front. That's for all of us. And like I said, it usually just gets worse because, like I said, pretty quick, your whole world is right in front of you. Mm-hmm. And you're holding and carrying on everything else, and that's just going to get worse, man. Same idea with your low back. As far as for low back pain, I know you're not supposed to lay on your back, but I don't have a cylinder, so like, so everybody
This is what I encourage my patients to do. Get a cylinder. So get a towel or whatever, something very cheap. Get a towel, roll it up nice and tight, about 3 to 4 inches around. And you can tape it so it doesn't come apart. Okay. You take that cylinder and you stick it. So these knobs on your low back, you take that cylinder and you stick it right at the top of those knobs, and you lay right on the floor. Because part of what's happening is so those knobs that you can feel are these guys right here. And they're attached to this big shuffle bone in your sacrum. So what usually ends up happening, especially when you get stuck moving forward a lot, is right at that transition, that's getting tucked underneath you. And once you get it tucked so far, all these muscles run north and south, and as they tighten, they compress. You can envision this getting mashed and then crushed down, and that's where you generate a lot of pain. It's no big deal. Doesn't bother me a bit. I've got kids. It's easy. So if you can take your cylinder and you can stick it, like I said, right above those knobs, you can start breaking this thing. Come on, cylinder. You can start breaking this thing back open the appropriate way. Because that's part of what ends up happening is that once you get that crank so far one direction, the bad direction, your body just gets caught in this protective loop. All the muscles seize up to try to keep it from getting any worse. But because, again, the north and south arrangement of your muscles actually are making your pain worse. And around you go. Because tomorrow you'll get up and you'll lean forward and you'll use them and they'll tighten back up and they'll mash. And it's kind of a vicious cycle. But yeah.
How big of a cylinder are we talking?
About 3 to 4 inches. Okay. I know you can go to like Big 5 and you can buy those foam ones. And that's a great place to graduate to, but if you lay on that right out of the gate, you'll hate me. You'll swear I was the devil. You'll go to get up and feel somebody beat you across the back with a stick. Oh, so don't do that. Okay. So yeah, 3 to 4. So the general rule of thumb is when you first lay on the cylinder that you've made, you'll almost kind of take your breath away like that sensation. But within a minute or so, you should feel your body being allowing your body to break over it. And then you should be able to hang out there. Start out about 5 to 7 minutes. Work your way up a couple minutes a week till you're at 15-ish. But if you lay on it the whole time, it just, oh my gosh, feels like, somebody's just, and it's too big. Back it down, make it just a little bit smaller, kind of fiddle with it. But on the same side, you go to lay on your cylinder and it's not big enough. You need to crank it up a notch. Until you can, if you graduate, or if you ever make it to a 6-inch cylinder, you've arrived. That's where you should stop. And just use that from this point forward, 15 to 20 minutes a day. That's a great place to stop. But like I said, that'll make a huge difference is like I said, prying that bottom section open. Make it dramatically. So, like I said, we could carry on about exercise and what have you. That's the biggest thing. So if you could go for short walks, a 15 to 20 minute walk, work up to 30 minutes, that would be awesome. Squats, body squats, start out with 15 to 20 of them. If you could work your way up to 3 sets of 30, that'd be awesome. And if you wanted to get crazy and you get real comfortable, you can start adding like a kettle, one of those kettle weights, or I don't care, got something around the house that you can just kind of pick up and hold right here. You can facilitate that. If 3 sets of 30 is boring after a while, okay, you can up the ante a little bit. But if you got to that point, that'd be you'd be, like I said, pretty prepared, I think. Where was I headed with that? That's about all on that. One thing I did want to touch on before we got wrapped up was just briefly labor and delivery position. So, and this one's kind of an interesting topic because conventional wisdom is such that you're gonna show up, you're gonna epidural or not, that's gonna be your call. And if you have an epidural, you're on your back, and that's that. And so, and we've been birthing, on backs forever. The epidural thing is a bit of it's relatively new. Again, there's controversy out there, and part of the controversy is so have the epidurals, because there's been a pretty significant rise in cesareans. So does the epidural play a part in that? Yeah, well, depends on who you talk to. Most medical community is going to say no, but there's a growing number of people that say yes, because pretty quick
If your body can't feel, if your brain can't feel what's going on down there, it doesn't know how to accommodate it. So, and that's kind of what the epidural does. So most bodies carry on through, but like I said, there's a pretty significant rising number of women that end up with cesareans. And along with that, so there's a rising number of birth injuries that have occurred too over the last couple of decades in particular. And again, does that go hand in hand with the epidural thing and cesareans? Again, there's a growing body of people that say yes, and the reason for that is this. So as far as the mechanics go, so here you are. I'll get into the small group. So you're on your back. Okay, so I'll back up. So the mechanics of your pelvis are such that when you squat down, like so, your butt goes backwards. Okay, my butt goes backwards. Gets out of the way. So if my butt goes backwards, this shovel bone, this sacrum thing, means it's going backwards. It's getting out of the way. Okay? So considering this is right where the baby has to pass, that'd be pretty easy. So what ends up happening though is if you get stuck on your back, and this is the bed, my sacrum doesn't get out of the way very good. And so conventional wisdom has decided, okay, so what we'll do then is we'll just get a hold of your legs and we'll push your legs up towards your ears. Okay, so fine, let's do that. Let's get a hold of this, crank legs up, and if I push my legs up, my pelvis is going to follow. My pelvis is going to follow, just like that. So really, my sacrum hasn't changed its position at all. It hasn't gotten out of the way at all. And now you're putting this weird load on your low back because you're cranking it up like that. Anytime your spine bends forward like that, bad. Especially for your low back. The natural curve for your low back and your neck is backwards. That's where it's happy. That's where it wants to be. So like I said, so we're talking about birthing positions. And so the controversy being, on your back, birthing, or alternative. And so conventional wisdom is, like I said, such that we put people on their back and crank their legs up to their ears and make them push. And so the problem with that is this shovel bone here, this sacrum, which there's a couple pieces that are missing off of my model. The coccyx will be sticking out like that. So you got, and it's flexible, but nonetheless, it's still there. Okay? And so what I was describing is normally, when you squat down like this, that whole thing goes backwards and gets out of the way. So when you're on your back, you're pushing people's knees up to their ears. It does not. So now you got this basically speed bump for the baby to get past. And so that actually puts a lot more demand on this portion of your pelvis to spread apart and get out of the way. And if that doesn't happen, you got a baby that's stuck. And so we've decided that, well, that's fine. We've got a big vacuum cleaner we can stick to the top of their head and pull them out. Or forceps, we can clamp on their head and pull them out. We'll get around it, okay? Some of the ramifications to that, though, are their injuries to the baby. They get hematomas on their head, which to know if they're bruised. They get like a giant hickey on their head, or sometimes they get damaged from the forceps themselves, or sometimes there are. I have a patient who was involved in a situation like that, and they actually pulled so hard that they tore the nerves in her neck, and so she ended up spending the first part of her life with an arm she couldn't use. Her arm just hung there. That was it. She got lucky such that the nerves in her arm mended to where she started to get motor function and sensation back, but it took so long that her arm was stuck like that. So she ended up undergoing multiple surgeries to try to correct that, and she's still, 10 years old, dealing with the ramifications of that. Alternative, thoughts, and actually around the world they do it all the time. It's not an alternative per se. It's almost standard practice is some kind of upright birthing, squatting. But in epidural, you can't feel your legs, you can't stand up and give birth. That's the trade-off. And so I think for most women, it's the fear of pain that drives them to make that decision, and then you're stuck birthing on your back. So then Brittany could help. Maybe Brittany could help. We have birthing centers, particularly in Ashland birthing centers.
water births, that's where I'm at. So there are alternatives. Not our hospital, unfortunately, right?
Right.
Does not facilitate upright births, but there
They
are.
don't do upright births?
No, they will.
They'll do
You can't do water birth.
water births.
But
So you can't like sit in their jacuzzi tub and
you can labor in the tub, but you cannot deliver in the tub.
Right.
So they do have a squat bar that is on every bed. They don't tell you that it's there, but it's there. You can request to come up. You can birth in whatever position you want to. Make sure that you talk to your doctor about that so that your doctor knows what you want to do. And we'll go over birth plans during the childbirth education. Oh, you can't come to that. But the idea is that you have a birth plan that you've really thought about and that your doctor knows about. So and they have a copy of it at the hospital, they have a copy of it with your doctor. And so as the nurses are communicating with the doctor, he knows what you want. And that you have someone who understands what you want in the room with you so that they can help you have what's important to you. Because it's not always easy to think clearly or communicate that during labor. But taking a tour of the hospital, really know what options are out there to ask them about is really important. And to know really what you want. And then know that it could be completely go out the window. And you may have something totally different than what you wanted. And it's still going to be okay because you have a beautiful baby. You know, but
knowing what your options are.
I did.
And then, you know, at least pursuing what your desires are. Like I said, plans change fine. But like I said, at least knowing what your options are and pursuing.
So there's a
if you want a water birth,
bed.
Attached to the bed. If your water birth is important to you, there are several options.
I don't know what the difference between a water birth is.
A water birth, you have a baby in the water.
In a giant tub, basically.
What's the benefits to that compared to?
I guess some would argue, you know, so if you're doing a water birth, it's warm, it's, you know, it's more comforting basically, and you know, I don't know, some would argue there's risks to water birth, but I think they're pretty, I don't know how well founded they are.
Right, and you have to ask, you know, doctor about that. I know you're a doctor, we're not a delivery doctor,
No,
so.
I'm not a doctor. So that's a question for
I'm
you.
not a healthcare professional at all, but I have had 4 babies, and my last one was a water birth. My third one, I was attempting a water birth, but things didn't go as planned. But I labored in the tub and started to push her out in the water. And what was interesting about that for me is that I was in the water with my third, and I felt like, for the first time, this is right. I can do this. I can handle this. And it hurt like crazy, but I could feel her coming out in a way that like was empowering, and it felt right. And I wasn't out of my head in pain, like not thinking clearly, right? So I started to push her out, and I could feel my bones separating, and it was a powerful, amazing, but painful experience, okay? Then I had to get out, and it was like,
While she was coming out.
I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story, but I had to get out, and let me tell you the difference. As soon as you stepped out of the water, it was like all of a sudden, you feel like you weigh 1,000 pounds, and it hurt 50 times worse than I was out of my head in pain. Like, I'm a natural person, and I was like, I need drugs. Now I'm dying. From being in control and really embracing it. So
but at
it was
that
like,
point, it was too late, right? Or
well, at that point, so my baby was coming out phase presentation, which is super rare, and so they had to do some emergency things at that point. But so then I got to do my last one in the water, and it was amazing.
Would you have done the other ones in the water too?
Absolutely.
Is that a possibility for everybody?
Yeah, so there's water births available, and you can just Google search where water births are available in our area. So there's a place in Medford that you can have that done. You can do it at the Ashland Hospital, and then there's some midwife centers that do it as well.
Isn't that nerve-wracking though? Just because you don't know. I mean, you go into labor and you don't know how quick your baby's gonna come, and then you're driving this distance, and what if you don't make it?
I was worried about that, right? So with my third, I was like, I'm having the baby at the Ashland Hospital. Loved it. Wanted a water birth. My doctor was there.
When you're in labor.
So I planned it all out. Like when I knew I'm just gonna be like hang out in Ashland a lot. It was summer, so I was like, this is nice. You know, we went and walked in the park all the time. But I had plenty of time to get over there. It was fine.
you know, I had like only 1 out of 4 that my water broke first, and I really wasn't in pain, but I knew I was in labor, and so I like did my hair and left. It was really cool. First one, only 1 out of 4 that happened with. Okay, so don't get your hopes up there. But rode there, and she was born 3 hours later, you know, and it was great. And maybe I shouldn't have said that. It turned out great, right? And then, but my 4th, she came so quick, but it was amazing because one of the things that you'll learn from the doula is that changing positions and atmospheres helps you just get to that next place mentally, you know, and when you're there mentally, then your body usually follows. I mean, that's the design of it anyway, you know, so as I was going, it was like, I went through the worst part in the car, like Family Fun Center. I was like, I put my foot there, you know, like the baby's coming out. And when I got there, it was, you know, totally 10 centimeters, and it was really cool. I had to wait for the tub to be filled up, or else she would have come a little sooner, I think.
Oh, she is so cute. Oh my gosh. That little one. She's the happiest baby I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was an amazing birth. Hey, side note really quick, I have a Facebook page for the Pathways Moms. Sorry about your luck. But we'd love for you to join and actually put her birth on there so you can see the video if you like.
Oh, wow.
See my butt mostly. But it's because I had her in a different position, you know, not on my back. Because of you. Thank you for that. It was really great. Super experience.
So you had her squatting when you were squatting?
Squatting in the water, yeah.
In the water.
Actually, I was like in this position in the water.
Is that easier than like laying on your back?
Yeah, but you know what? I knew that was good for me because that's how I was kind of doing the one before. But also, I used to have stomach aches a lot when I was young, and I knew that position would help me. So like with severe pain that I dealt with before, I already knew what would help me feel a little better. You know, so when my stomach hurts or your back hurts, what makes you feel better? Those same kind of comfort measures, just obviously extreme, but they do help. So, yeah. But whatever, I sure wish they did them here. And a lot of the doctors wish they could as well, but they're unable to. It's not because the doctors don't want to.
So was your doctor here and then she went to? Or
No.
your doctor was out there?
Yeah, because if you have a baby at a hospital, the doctors that deliver have to have hospital rights to that hospital. So our local doctors have rights to our hospital.
So your OB was out there?
In Ashland, I had an Ashland one, and in Medford, I had a Medford one. And they don't deliver water births at the hospital in Medford, but there's a birth center in Medford that does, and there's a naturopath doctor that delivers babies there.
Interesting.
Were all of yours natural?
No, my first 2 weren't. Yeah, my first one I had to be induced. I was 16, so I didn't know what I was doing. I don't think I drank water ever at that point. So I was very ill. I drank like Pepsi every day. I didn't do caffeine free because I was like, that's one thing I knew I was supposed to do really. But it was long, and usually when you're induced, that comes along with pain medication just because everything's still going. But
my first was a natural birth, and I decided I would never try that
do
again.
it again?
No.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I am all about the
Were you stuck
natural
on your
thing.
back?
Okay, like
Yeah, that's the one that I had all the trouble with afterwards.
see?
It was just a lot of back pain after.
Like Brett was saying, if you know, if because that's the other thing. So you go in and
I pushed for 2 hours, and she saw my back for, longer than charge, but pushing for 2 hours.
you didn't have enough control.
I pushed about
It went so fast that they said,
Oh, you're too late.
yeah, he came in, he's like, do you want me to tell you what we're going to do? I was like, no. He's like, well, I'm going to tell everybody else. So he tells everyone else what he's going to do, and I'm like, I'm the one who needs the medicine. So by the time they checked me one more time, and they're like, oh, she's too far along.
Too far along. Oh.
So yeah, I went through the whole thing with no pain medication, and of course as you get further, that's why I was asking you, like, didn't it make you nervous? But your last ones were natural births.
Yeah.
What's the cutoff for?
You have so many centimeters, and I think it depends on the person because everyone's labor is different. Some progress slower, some progress faster. So
And the anesthesiologists, they have rules that they go by, and they have under their own license what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do. So the anesthesiologist will talk to you about that at the hospital.
Before you go in.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. You can ask that question at whatever place you're going to deliver at beforehand. You can go take a tour and talk to them and see what rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff, what they offer there. That way you know what to go home and research and talk to your doctor about. Because I know when my first two, I was given medication I'd never even heard of before. I would have liked to, I mean, I wasn't that good about taking my own health care into my hands, but you know, now I know what they are, and that's a really valuable thing. If you know what it is, then you know what the choice is, whether you want to say yes or no. But I just have to say that while I'm all about natural, I've been to several births where they had epidurals, and it's not always totally effective. Like, people don't always get totally numb, but sometimes they do, and they're like, selfie time, contractions, baby's on the way here. And then the baby comes out and mom's like rested and feeling fabulous. And I'm like, oh, wow, maybe that's a good idea. So I don't need to be pushing natural births, because there's pros and cons for sure.
It's true.
Yeah, Dr. Ermshar always tells people, I really prefer epidurals with first pregnancies.
It's hard.
I know. I'm like, Dr. Ermshar, shh. But then, you know, there's different points of view and they're valid, right?
It's
there's
true.
Good research.
It's true. I mean, gosh, I don't know. It's
funny.
so I guess what you walk away from that is try to get informed. Try to make it, make it so that it's what you want it to be the best that you can. So there are options. How's that? You don't have to. It's not go in, get an epidural, lay on your back and labor. So there's options to that out there, and they should be considered, I think. But like I said, the process has occurred for millennia prior to epidurals, and like I said, I do think there is. Again, I'm speaking way outside, not having delivered, but I do think there is a connection that is meant to be there.
Yeah.
Your presence, body, mind, presence. So.
And if you're not able to come to our childbirth education, which is tomorrow at 1:30, if you're not able to make that, there is a great childbirth education class at Women's Health Center, and it's presented by Jessica Daggett, who is one of our presenters as well, and she's wonderful, and it's on Wednesday nights, and it's pretty much all the time too, so you could take a time out from this class and do that. She may do some weekend workshops as well.
You said it's Wednesday nights over there?
Yeah, same time as this. So, but I think it's like 4 weeks or 6 weeks or something like that. So you can check into that. There's also All Care has a childbirth education class. It's free to everybody. No one showed up last time it was the first time they did it, and so All Care has free to the community childbirth education, and I don't know when it is. So call them and check.
So do you prefer that we go through all of these classes first and then the childbirth, or do them both?
No, it's up to you. I mean, you can do
There's
both.
like no order to go in.
No.
Okay.
I mean, they go in kind of a logical order as far as you get pregnancy, then
Yeah.
that's newborn care. But yeah, and the reason I did that is because we were only able to offer all of our classes twice a year in the past, and we weren't able to meet everyone during the best part of their pregnancy. And so I wanted to offer a third cycle and add a few classes. In order to do that, I had to separate it between 2 days. So that's where we're at with that. But I also wanted to make sure that Thursday there was alternatives, like childbirth, there is alternatives.
Yeah.
Ours might be better, that's totally, your call, but yeah. Do you guys have any other questions for Dr. Turner? Prenatal, labor and delivery. Cool. Well, I wanted to mention a couple things real quick before you go. Does anyone know who Buggy Boutique is? So there's a children's store in town, and they have mostly second-hand items, but they also have new items, and they have like locally made stuff there too. In fact, the owner, she has her own little clothing line, but she is about to have a baby herself, and she is drowning trying to get her all the fall stuff out, and she works here too. She volunteers here, and so she asked me to mention it to you guys, and if you guys would like store credit at her store and trade for helping, on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Saturday, she would love to have you, and I can pass on your information. So she's very generous and she's amazing, and she's pregnant too, so we've got. And her store is great. It's the most reasonably priced. I do all my shopping there, so yeah. So let me know if you're interested in that, and give me permission to share your contact information. I can do that. Yeah. All right. No more lingering questions. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Wednesday, 6 o'clock. So anyone want to come shop a little early, 15 minutes early next week?
I'll come early.
Come early? Okay. All of you can shop today before you leave. We have about half an hour before I get to get home to my baby. Still nursing. Who was nurse forever? Yeah, we've seen yours for 2.5 years.
Oh man.
I know.
It gets harder as they get bigger, I feel like. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, don't touch me.